Hello there, my loyal subscribers. It is I, the Knight. It's June 23rd again. And you know what that means? It's a certain mascot and icon's birthday, anniversary, call it what you will. But some 23 years ago on this day, in 1991, the world saw the debut and the emergence of a rather cool, abrasive, and attitudinal turn character that would go on to change gaming the way we knew it. Of course, I'm referring to Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, what is there to say about Sonic? He's grossed many consoles, as well as being Sega's originally, but then onto Nintendo, Sony, and then Microsoft, to handhelds, and to even be, the very first Sonic game being playable on a mobile, on the iPhone. Sonic, in a lot of ways, is kind of the Madonna of the video gaming world, in the sense that he moves with the times, he changes, he adapts, he's reinvented at least every 5 to 7 years or so. But the core concept of him is always intact. He's a teenager who tells it like it is and always does things for his fellow friends and to keep the balance of order restored. In some incarnations, he's rather cocky, a little more abrasive. For those that read the Sonic the Comic when it was published by Fleetway back in the day, in some versions, he's very mellow, very much more easygoing, and just very carefree. If you watched Sonic X 11 years ago, hard to think it's been that long since that anime's been and gone. To going from a side-scrolling 16-bit platform to doing 2D, 2.5D and 3D, on things like Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Generations, and Sonic Colors. Noticed how I didn't reference that game. I'm going to say this now. It's 2014. 2006 was 8 years ago. Yeah. And of course we've got Sonic Boom, or Sonic B, or Sonic the Boom, or even The Boom, coming later this year on Nintendo Wii, Nintendo 3DS, and of course Sonic Boom, the animated series, which will actually be Sonic's first CG animated series. And from what I've seen so far, with these little trailers, these little snippets and clips, it looks promising. And of course, some members of the online Sonic community don't like it already. I think what some people need to remember is that this is not being aimed at the more mature Sonic demographic. This is trying to bring in a new audience, a new demographic. That's, because fans like me are now in their late 20s and early 30s that were first introduced to Sonic 23 years ago. I don't think Sega really wants to keep marketing, our hero, if you will, to an audience that's constantly going to nitpick and reviewing articles of that was bogged down with 20 plus years of continuity that, quite frankly, in this day and age is no longer relevant nor important. And to be fair, it's not the first time in any kind of media or intellectual property where they hit the reset button or do a reimagining. I mean, Spider-Man's been reimagined in the comic many times. He's been rebooted on the screen for the first time. Superman's been kind of redone twice. Batman's been redone twice. Hulk was necessary in 2008, because let's be honest, people, 03... But the question you have to ask yourself, and I say this in the sense of being logical and legitimate, what is it about Sonic do you think has allowed him to stand the test of time and be able to survive in today's market that's either dominated by Call of Duty, Need for Speed, Mass Effect, that was for you by the way, Commander, or, you know, the fact that he, you know, still competes with Mario, who's now into his 4th decade. You know, what is it about, you know, this hedgehog with attitude that, you know, is so endearing, is so appealing and refreshing? I will admit, the modern times has been kind of hit and miss for Sonic. I mean, if you look back at the 16-bit era with the Genesis, Mega Drive, call it what you will, whichever region you're from in the world, I will concede those were, you know, the glory days of Sonic. And of course, ever since 99, although to be fair, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 were decent attempts at a reasonable 3D Sonic game, but I don't know. The camera system, I think, will always plague the Sonic gaming system, no matter how hard they try to fix it. Although, I do like the go-betweens, particularly with Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Generations, where we get the 2.5D side-scrolling aspect. So, it's kind of meeting people halfway. In regards to where do I think he'll go from here? Well, he's had 3 American animated series: Adventures of in '93, Saturday Morning in '93, and Sonic Underground in '99, which for me is a guilty pleasure at best. Then of course you have Sonic X from '03. He has had a movie that was in '99, but as far as the Japanese series that it's actually dubbed from, that was actually a 2-episode series from '95. Why it wasn't extended further, no one's guess. But the last big medium for Sonic to conquer is the big screen. Which kind of brings me to my next point in regards to the fact that Sony Pictures have announced that they are working on a Sonic movie. Now, whether this is just coincidental, let's look at the bigger picture. What is down the road in 2 years' time on June 23rd, 2016? And before anyone asks, no, it is not the 10th anniversary of that game. I am not calling that game by name. It does not deserve to be given recognition. But, to sum it up, in 2 years' time, it will be the silver anniversary of Sonic. And to any character, show, game, or intellectual property that is able to have been able to last 1/4 of a century, that is indeed a big deal. Now, from what I remember reading, there will be a link in the description, is that it will be half CG, which I don't have a problem with a CG Sonic movie, but it would also be half live action, which I'm kinda skeptical on, because although Eddie LeBron's Sonic Spec movie that he released nearly 2 years ago was at best a very, very first decent attempt, especially for a fan director. So Eddie, if you are indeed watching this, kudos, my friend. You did a above and beyond job with that. Also, kudos for getting Jaleel White. That was awesome. I don't know if half live action and half CG is the way to go. Personally speaking, and this is just my own 2 cents, take it as you will for this, I think they should just stick to doing a full-on CG animated movie, but do it in a way whereby Sonic is in an original story, but it's on a home world of his and not Earth. Because I think that's been one of the biggest complaints from the Sonic community, is that Sonic should be on a world of his own and not sharing, sharing space and time with the humans. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Sonic X for what it was, and I'm probably one of the few that actually appreciated what they were trying to do with the Chris Thorndike character. I'm not gonna, overtly praise the Chris character, nor am I going to, nor am I going to put him down. I'm merely looking at it from the point of, at that time, it was trying to put the viewer's perspective of trying to see Sonic through our eyes. What would we do if Sonic was one of our friends? So, I think an original story, like I say, on a different home planet to Earth, because it's just one of the little nitpicks that you only get one shot at doing a 25th anniversary properly. And I think in the case of Sonic, he should have more good points to reflect on as opposed to negativity. My opinion. But at the end of the day, if Sony decide to go one way and say, let's just say for the sake of argument, they choose to adapt into a mainstream movie, they decide to adapt Sonic Adventure as a movie. Now, when you look at Sonic Adventure, the story as it is, that is actually a very good template to turn into a live-action movie. Now, for obvious reasons, they're not going to copy move for move or, CG template that happened in that game, because when you look at the Dreamcast's graphics and art design of '99 to today's standards, it's extremely dated. Don't get me wrong, I still got love for the Dreamcast. I'd like to still have one, but you know how it goes. But Sonic Adventure as a movie, I think, would do more than just work. I think it would meet people on all levels, because that was one of the few games and stories that nobody has a bad word to say about. Sonic Adventure 2 is more of a rollerball feel, and by that context is that the action never stops. Or should I say this, the momentum never stops. Even when there's no action, you can see that the story is still in motion. Things are still at play. Things are still in motion. I don't know about Sonic Unleashed being done as a movie. I think I know the story is trying to be marketed to a slightly more mature audience, which I don't have a problem with that. It's just the idea of Sonic possibly dropping F-bombs or saying douchebag. It's like, that's fine in fan fiction, but when you're doing something mainstream that kids, 11 to 14 are likely to go watch as well, you need to keep it at a happy medium. Again, these are purely objective perspectives on my point. Do not take it to heart. But I could see that working. I could see Sonic Adventure, the movie, doing extremely well, or if they just decided to, as I say, do a completely original story, but have it loosely follow, say, the the story of the first two games, where we get introduced to Sonic and then he goes off to save Tails, partner up with him. That would make for a good storyline in terms of how movies are done, but we shall wait and see. My personal hope is, first of all, keep Michael Bay well away from that. Second of all, get some independent writers to come in and write this, because I think most writers these days in Hollywood ask for far too much for big budget movies, and I think just try to make it something that everyone will enjoy. And also, a little thing, that's just a minor nitpick, can we stop making Knuckles a dumbass? I mean, the joke's not funny anymore. We want the badass that first showed up in Sonic 3 in February of 1994. That's the Knuckles we want, not the, oh look, there are things in this box! To quote them is, really? But, yeah, to end on a happier note, I hope we get another good 23 years out of the Hedgehog. I think he's got plenty of life left in him, and I hope to be here at the 25th and the 30th anniversary just to say, once again, happy birthday, Sonic. Keep going strong.